it's Rockline and you're watching Supernatural Season 2, Episode 12 review, Nightshifter. If you're new here, I'm doing like a recap and review of every single episode of Supernatural, so let's get into it. I love this episode. I love this episode, but I always forget about it. I always do. And I think it's like an episode that a lot of people forget about, and it just like goes up over people's minds, but it's so good. And I definitely rewatched this one a couple of times. But the episode is so good. I think I've said in the past I love episodes that have to do with the police. So here we go again with dealing with the police. And there's an episode too, also in 2, where they go to jail. So the fact that they had that episode a few episodes ago where they were arrested, and then they had this episode, and then they have that all in season 2, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Then we also get introduced to Agent Hendrickson, I don't know, but he comes back too because of all the police stuff. So this episode starts out like what is happening with this bank, and you see Dean, and so they're obviously investigating this case, and it's Shapeshifter again, which is kind of interesting because the reason that they have trouble with the police is because of the first Shapeshifter pretending to be Dean and framing him for murder. So it's kind of interesting that went down this route, but I feel like what they wanted to do, they had to have the Shapeshifter. I mean, this is our first monster we've seen twice. I guess we've seen vampires twice, so not really. But I feel like what they wanted to do, like even though we have seen Shapeshifter before, like Shapeshifter makes sense, and then also it's like a monster we've seen before, so it's not like we had to like discover like how to kill it or what to do. Like I think it also, that was helpful for what they wanted to do here. So the guy that was in this episode, he was actually in Smallville. I don't think him and Jensen like crossed paths like when Jensen was on Smallville. When was he on Smallville? I feel like he was on Smallville. I don't think they crossed paths. But you know what's interesting about it is that this felt like an episode of Smallville. So many times in Smallville, like, was there like a hostage situation or like something? Like this episode felt like an episode of Smallville. It didn't feel like that's the thing, is it didn't go the exact formula of Supernatural episodes, but that doesn't mean like it wasn't a good episode, like a good Supernatural episode. And sometimes you have to go away from those formulas, but it was very formulaic to like a Smallville episode in some way, which is just so interesting, especially since the guy's on Smallville. But I think it's kind of interesting of having, well, I'm trying to think like, where did this idea come from? And I wonder if like the writers wanted to do some like hostage situation with like a bank and a robbery. But it was interesting because it was like someone who just like person wanted to find the monster. And so it did this whole thing and kind of got in the way of Sam and Dean's hunt. And we haven't seen that too much. We saw a little bit with like the ghost facers of like people who are like into this stuff or like whatever, who like kind of get in their way. So we haven't seen too much of it. But this was obviously like a huge thing, like with the whole bank and everything. And so it's kind of interesting too how they had to like, it wasn't what they're initially doing, but they kind of saw how like, okay, like this is a situation we're in, let's use it for advantage to find this Shapeshifter. And the Shapeshifter itself was really smart, especially at the end with the girl and like pretending to be dead so they bring that girl out. It was actually very smart. It like tricked me up even though I've seen this episode before. This episode's also like really sad because like the guy does die, and in the end he had no idea what to do. He was just like he was just going in there guns blazing like, this is not a robbery, but then he like didn't know what to do. And so it's sad that he just like died. Also when Dean picked up the phone and the agent was talking to him on the phone, you know, that's very interesting to see because it's kind of crazy like how they were able to find out stuff about him. But it's kind of funny that like the agent's calling him a monster, and so you kind of get the sense like he's gonna be coming back. And obviously the writers, I think, you know, when they wrote this episode, they intended for him to come back. They're really amping up this police thing. I wonder in that episode when they do get arrested and go to jail if he's in that episode. I don't remember, but that's soon. I remember that's soon. At the end, like Sam and Dean are really smart. I mean, I'm sure it was Sam easier to like, you know, put on the FBI suits or whatever those people were. But that's how they were going to make the escape, because another thing, you're watching this, you're like, how is he going to get out of this? How are they going to get out of this? But I think it's something special about this episode because, again, it like doesn't follow the formula, but it still is so good and just like is so interesting. But it's so underrated. Like, I feel like when you see those like top 20, top 10 episodes of Supernatural, you'll never see this on a list. And it's definitely like, people just like forget about it, but it's actually like such a good episode. It's so good. I don't think I have anything else to say, but if you're like me and you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot about this episode. Something I don't know, again, if I'm trying to have someone, you know, watch a show, if I would like have this be the first episode I'm watching, but if I was like watching the show with someone and I was picking like particular episodes, like a season, like, you know, if we were going from the beginning and like, I'm like, okay, we can skip this episode, like the last 2 episodes, maybe I would skip, maybe Playthings not, I don't know, debatable. But this episode, I definitely would not skip. I would want to show this episode to someone. So thank you guys for watching. Comment your thoughts below, and